Welcome, everybody. Frank Vespi here for Maryland Racing Today, part of the Mid-Atlantic Racing Today family podcast. Maryland Racing Today, powered by the Racing Biz, theracingbiz.com, and presented by our friends at Maryland Jockey Club. Please do like and subscribe, and you can find us everywhere you get podcasts, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, YouTube, wherever you want. We're there, so please like and subscribe. Happy to be joined today by trainer Tim Keefe, trainer based at Laurel Park, longtime local trainer, also former president of the Maryland Thoroughbred Horsemen's Association, currently on that board, as well as the board of the Maryland Jockey Club. He's, speaking of being everywhere, Tim Keefe is kind of everywhere in Maryland racing. And Tim, wanted to get you on. First thing I want to talk about is you got Code of Silence going in the private terms, mile and 16th private terms for 3-year-old Saturday at Laurel. That is the next local stop on the road to the Preakness, which is coming up in mid-May, also at Laurel. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but give us a lowdown. How's Code of Silence? How are you feeling? You worked him the other day. Looks like he's coming in ready to roll.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on, Frank. I appreciate it. Yeah, he's doing great. Owned by Ken and Mary Holt. They're the co-breeders. I've been training for Ken and Mary for quite a while. Great owners for Maryland. Maryland through and through, Maryland sired, Maryland bred, Maryland everything. So having horses for Ken and Mary has been great. This horse is, I've had some of his siblings late weekend. I've had Tattooed. Tattooed was a good horse. Yep. He was a decent horse. I think it was the Jennings. We might have won with him. That was Ken and Mary's first. I think it was a Jennings. I hope I'm not wrong there. Anyway, that was Ken and Mary's first stake win. And, this horse came into me as a 2-year-old last year. And he's just moved forward with every step. We've been very patient and slow with him. And he's done really everything we've asked him. We shipped him up to Delaware twice. I ran him in a stake up there where he placed. He was second out there. And I think it's his first race. We were second with him. He's just done everything right. So, we don't know how good he is. He did win the Maryland Juvenile, but, he looks like he's moving forward with every step, and there's no reason not to take this as our next stop in the ultimate quest for a race on Preakness Day, whether that's Preakness, that's a huge long shot, but you got to reach for the stars sometimes. So we're giving it a go with him. He's doing great, and I'm looking forward to running him around 2 turns for the first time on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, let's, I'll pop up here. This is his win in the Maryland Juvenile back in December. And, this race kind of shows some of what he's been, which is a horse that is kind of outfooted early, comes running at the end. Do you sense that going 2 turns, are you hoping it'd be a little bit closer to the early action?
I've been anxious to get him around 2 turns. He's just, for whatever reason, coming out of it. He's a huge horse, big horse. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that hampers him coming out of the gate. He's got a good mind, a good, clear mind. So it's not anything in his brain at the gate. He just has a hard time getting out of the gate and getting himself rolling. And, he does have a pretty quick turn foot towards the last quarter. I think he'll be a little bit closer. But, Angel and I talked about it. I don't want to take him out of his game, which I believe is coming from off the pace. If we have a good, quick, early pace, coming from off the pace and just grinding it out towards the end. So that's our hope.
You can see how big he is in that video. When he comes up outside those other horses, they're like a little brother to him. You mentioned Angel Cruz. He's been aboard all of his previous starts. He's named again. And, man, he's earning his money on this horse. This horse makes him work for it.
He does. He does. The Maryland Million race was it doesn't look great on form, but the Maryland Million race was a really good race for him too. It's only, I guess we were, again, we're not going the right distance. Falls out of the gate. I know he finishes 6th, but he's flying at the end and making up all kinds of ground. And you're right, Angel does have to work on him a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to pop up this video now. This is from, if I can find it, the Spectacular Bid. And I've got the whole video because I feel like this race, in a sense, is what he's been in microcosm, like the trouble out of the gate. And then you'll see, like, on the turn, Angel's starting to get into him, and he's really not going anywhere. And then he kicks in at the end, and then he comes flying at the end. It's a little bit too late, but it's got to, it's got to both frustrate you and give you some hope. There he is, it kind of a little bit discombobulated. It seemed like coming out of the gate there,
breaking out of the one hole. Yep, it breaks in a tangle, and here Angel's just trying to get him together and be patient, and he's still not, for as poorly as he broke. I don't remember the fractions early, but he's still not too far out of it here. It's not really what we were looking for, but obviously, yeah. I mean, they're going 24 and change. They're not really moving that fast. So, and again, he's not really going anywhere here around the turn. But Angel's patient with him. He's patient, and he is, now he's obviously asking him a little bit here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and
which is tricky at the mile. If you've got a horse and you're already asking them at the 3/8 pole, and you've got to run all the way to the second wire, the long finish. I mean, I always tell my riders in the mile races, don't start moving on them until you're at the quarter pole. But this guy, you got to start moving on a little earlier than that. Anyway.
Yeah, no. Do you? I mean, it feels to me, but you know better than I do, it feels to me like he sort of runs in spots, like his focus may be a little in and out. Is that?
And that's why we popped the blinkers on him. The blinkers did definitely help him a little bit, but as you can see there, that race was just a mile. He's coming on at the end. I'm really looking forward to running him around 2 turns. Now that race Saturday is obviously not easy. It's only 6 horses, but Gary's got, all year Gary's had killer last year and even this year. Jiminy Crickets, he got 3 in the race. Yeah, and that Lando, Let's Go Lando, he's a nice horse. I mean, obviously, I assume he's going to be the favorite in the race. He should be, I would think. That horse looks like a really nice horse. But,
and then he's got the other horse, Hollywood Import, that won the 2 stakes previously, including the one we just watched, Spectacular Bid. But I think I may have said this to you, but I know I've said it to other people. Like, your horse. Others have accomplished more. Other 3-year-olds on the grounds at Laurel have accomplished more so far. Your horse has felt like the one that, with time and added ground, might have some upside that we haven't seen.
Some longevity, I think, and that's what Ken and I have purposely planned on with this guy, is take our time with him. I didn't run him right back after he won the juvenile. I gave him a little bit of time. There was I can't remember the race that he could have run in, but again, the distance wasn't right. We've always focused on backing up from Preakness. If we ever get there, back up from Preakness. Okay, where do we go from there? Okay, well, let's go to the private terms is obviously the next stop, and then we'll see what happens in April. So we always kind of had the private terms in mind for him as his first 2-turn race. So,
were you always planning to skip the Miracle Wood? Or was it because of the dates got a little messed up with canceled
dates were a little, and we never really thought about that. Again, we wanted to focus on 2 turns. The Miracle Wood was just the 1-turn mile, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't want to do that again with him. The timing wasn't quite right. So we felt a race here in the private terms, and then if things go well here, the next stop will be the Federico Tessio again, if things go well. And then we'll just go from there. Yeah.
Now, when you're stretching out a horse like this to 2 turns, do you do anything differently in terms of the training to prepare them for that, or
not a lot, really? I mean, his training to prepare for this has been the accumulation of the races coming up to this. I do a little bit more different gallops with him and that sort of thing. His work the other day was 5/8, but it was really it was really 3/4 time, because we worked him out to the mile pole. So I do a little bit farther distance, but he's got a great bottom on him. He's going to go forever. He's plenty fit to go the mile and a 16th. So I haven't changed up a whole lot with him now.
Now, you mentioned Tattooed, his half brother, who won a stake, and I think like $400,000 was
just over 400. Yeah, he just eclipsed that. Yeah,
it was a nice horse. That sounds like. Sounds like it could be my house, although our guys are sleeping right now, I think. But his stakes win came when he was 6 years old. So you had to kind of wait for that to come around. You think this guy's going to have a
I think this guy, obviously, this guy's gotten a lot, has progressed a lot earlier than Tattooed ever did. Tattooed, he was always a bit backwards, a little immature, both mentally and physically. He got hurt when he was younger. And yeah, I mean, heck, Eight-Too-Fast-to-Catch. He was 5, I think, until he won his first stake race. So
He made up for lost time.
he made up for lost time. He sure did. So, this horse has obviously eclipsed what we had hoped, when he first came in as a 2-year-old. But he's just, and we're kind of letting him take his own path, but he's marched right forward with everything we've asked him to do. So, again, the family is always, that mare she's thrown some really nice horses all along. Anyway.
I saw an interview you did with somebody where you talked about that you really like developing young horses and watching horses progress. I would think this horse, a little bit of a project in that regard, I would think. But, I mean, is it something like as horses, do they get sort of gradually better, or is it more like one day it's sort of the bulb goes on?
It's a little bit of both. You can't, it's both. With Eight-Too-Fast-to-Catch, he took forever to get together. He was always immature, insecure, everything until he got to be 4. And Arnie was always very patient, and Arnie never pushed me to run him in races that he wasn't ready for. And I always attribute that horse's success to having been owned by Arnold, because Arnie just said, just do what you need to do with the horse. If you think he's got talent, you think you can get it out, I'm not in any hurry, take your time. And Ken's the same way. Ken and Mary are the same way with this horse here. But it depends on, this horse has come along a lot faster than I ever thought he would, be honest with you. And I've never put too much pressure on him to try to get him here. He's taken us here so far. So it just depends. It depends on the horses. Sometimes you can just generally, after you eat, whether it's after a work or after a gate work with other horses, or actually after a race or 2 races, you can see the light comes on with some of them. Yeah. Others, it's a gradual process.
It's funny because I think, I guess that's true for humans too. And sometimes you see the progress, but it doesn't show up in the results. And then all of a sudden it sort of all comes together, and then you see it like if you were a golfer, you might not see any improvement, though you're seeing better things. And then one day you shoot, it shows up in your score.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
At least I imagine that to be the case. My golf game never seemed to get better, but So Eight-Too-Fast-to-Catch, only millionaire you've trained, 3-time Maryland Million Classic winner, only one of those. It is interesting that you say he took a long time to get together, because he had the kind of running style you sort of associate with being good early. Like he had a ton of early speed, liked to go to the front, control the race from there. But you're saying it just didn't really sort of take effect for a while.
No, it didn't. He just, like I said, mentally, he just was never always there. I don't know, we all know that, he had one of his companions was a goat, and I certainly, he loved that goat too. And I know that was part of the success of the horse, being able to keep him calm and relaxed. I mean, heck, when I took him down and run him in the Fayette against Wise Dan and at Keeneland, we were 4th down there, only beaten 2 lengths. That, and it was that race that made me realize, this is a good horse, but he's just not that good to be the next level up. And we kept him around Maryland for the rest of his career, and that's how we were able to grind out just over $1 million in earnings.
Is that hard to do when you have a horse that's like an inch, not a graded horse, but is it hard to keep them in these races? Or you know what I mean? Like, there's got to be the temptation to take some swings.
No, there definitely is. And you have to realize that, if you do take those swings, it could, like with Still Having Fun. I don't know if you remember Still Having Fun, but he was one of my better horses that I've ever trained. I bought him, ran him first time out, and then we got an offer. We accepted it. We sold 2/3 of the horse and to some great owners, Gary Barber and Adam Wachtel, and they play in the major leagues. They play in the big time races, and that's how we ended up in the race up on Belmont Day, the Woody Stevens. Right. and those races take a toll on those horses shipping around. Then, then we went out to California. We were third in the Malibu out there. That was a spectacular race. But, and I think we were 50-1 in that race and just got nosed out for second. But, those races take, and that horse, we did well with him. Had that horse stayed around Maryland and done kind of the Eighttofasttocatch thing, where the races were a little bit easier and didn't take so much out of them. I do wonder where we would have ended up with him. Would I have had him for a longer period of time and able to do kind of the same thing I did with him with Catcher? I don't know. Yeah, this is him on the outside coming up. That was one of the most exciting races. Well, it was obviously the biggest race that I've won, and that was an exciting race. But to get a horse like that as a youngster, to buy him, and then bring him along, and then to win a race like that, it's a lot of fun.
I'd imagine. What's the feeling like? I mean, it's fairly late in that race, I would think, where you start to go like, I think we're going to get the money here, because he's a long way out of it for most of the trip. But what's the feeling like when you start to get that inkling, like, I think we're going to get there?
I mean, it's just elation. I mean, it's just like you just hold your breath. And, really, I mean, it happens so fast, and everybody's they're screaming and hollering, and everybody can see him running up on the outside there, and Adam was there and Gary was there, and they were all ecstatic, and that's it was a huge day and a lot of fun. Those are great memorable times.
I talked to David Hayden one time about when Safely Kept won the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and I said, kind of that question, and he was kind of like, I don't know, I just levitated from the seats to the winner's circle after the race.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much that's it. Yeah, I remember hearing a lot of congratulations from some of the people I knew up there. But yeah, I mean, it was all a whirlwind for sure. That's for sure.
Well, he had run really well, if I remember correctly, in the Chick Lang right before that, going 3/4. So the added ground figured to help, and he had just showed he could be that kind of horse.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we were second in the Chick Lang, I think we were. I should have done my homework before I hopped on here, but he ran a huge race.
I keep sandbagging you with these questions.
Yeah, so. No, that's fine. It keeps me on my toes. That's all right. But yeah, no, we were, obviously when you get a call after his first race from interested parties looking to buy the horse, you have a nice horse. They buy horses on numbers, kind of numbers they read, whether it's in the rag numbers or sheet numbers or whatever numbers they use. So, we knew, and honestly, in the morning with that particular horse, still having fun. He was just an ordinary plain bay kind of gelding until you worked them in the morning, and you look at your watch and you're like, holy mackerel, this horse might be okay. And obviously then when we did run him the first time and we got the offers and that sort of thing, we knew he could be okay. So
yeah, he was pretty okay. Yeah. Grade 2 winner.
And then great story too, also there to come back to circle back to that particular horse. We did lose him through the claimant box, and all the partners got back together, put some money together, and we were able to claim him back and retire him. So kudos to Gary and Adam and Jimmy and the rest of them that did that. Cynthia also helped out, his co-breeder. So
yeah, no, that's great. Where is still having fun now?
I believe he's in Delaware right now with a woman doing some dressage with him.
Okay. And I know you took Eighttofasttocatch at the end of his career. And I saw a little video one of your kids had put up of doing some jumps with him and stuff. What's his deal these days? So we took him, and my wife and daughters schooled him, and did eventing through the preliminary level with him. And that's as high as, at that point. When he retired, he was 8 years old. So, he didn't. Again, Rumsey took him, my daughters took him, we evented him through preliminary, and then Forrest actually took him. My daughters got older, and we didn't have anybody who was riding him regularly. So Forrest took him, Forrest Boyce, who rode him in his last how many races. Sheldon and Forrest both rode this guy. So Forrest took him and did a lot of fox hunting and that sort of thing with him.
He's 20 now. I actually just saw him last week, and Lori Calhoun out at the Foxy G has him with
Okay.
out in one of her retirement fields.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice.
still
Good.
looks great. Came right up to the fence. I like to think he recognizes me.
Uh-huh.
Not sure he does, but I like to think he does. So might have been the carrots. I don't know, but
Yeah, that probably helped. But
yeah, it didn't hurt for sure.
no, he's a neat horse. A horse that was a little like him. I mean, different in a million ways, but a little similar in their kind of profile was Silmaril, who also similarly, I believe, got over $1 million in her last start, which I think was the same with Eighttofasttocatch, right? It was his last start that put him over the top.
Yep. Yeah, it was his last start, and that was Arnie's wish. Arnie always wanted to have a horse to make $1 million, and sadly, Arnie passed away earlier in that year before he was able to accomplish that. So the lawyers all knew. He made sure everybody knew. Okay, the rest of the stable can, disperse and that sort of thing. But Tim keeps Eighttofasttocatch to try to make $1 million, and then once we get over $1 million, then the horse goes to Tim. So when we won Maryland Million that year, we were all really excited and a little bit sad at the same time, because I'm thinking, okay, well, we just made over $1 million, and it was like Arnie coming back from the grave. I looked at after that evening, I looked at the charts, and he had made like $998,000. So I was like, all right, great. I got one more race to go.
One more
to go. Yeah. And I think it was the Harrison E. Johnson, a race which he's won a couple of times. I think it was the Harrison E. Johnson. Again, I should have done my homework here. But that was his last race, and he won by, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 lengths, something. And and that was his last race. His whole family was in the winner's circle, and everybody was there, and that was Catcher's last race. And he retired with $1,072,000. So.
See, you did do your homework. You got it.
I did. I always know that number. I always know that number.
Well, he was funny too, because you said, he won by 8 or 9 lengths or whatever. Like a lot of the races that he won, he made it look very easy.
That's why I say he was quirky in his mind a little bit, and just that, he has all the ability and everything else, but mentally, if he wasn't there mentally, I remember that, there was a Maryland Million race that we were favored in. It was, I think, the race before, again, I don't know if it was after his first win or after his second Maryland Million win, but it was in between. I thought for sure, the horse had been training great. He's coming into the race great. He's doing everything great. There's no reason why it feels, looks like he can handle everything in that race. And I don't know where he ran, finished 4th, 5th, or something like that. Mm-hmm. To this day, there's no rhyme or reason as to why he ran that way. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it was just him. He had a little quirkiness in his head. If everything didn't go quite right, he just kind of, he didn't finish the way we thought he would have. But anyway, but then he came back obviously the next year to redeem himself, and he won it. So.
He won. I think he won the Maryland Million Classic, then lost, then won the last. So it
was the second start in the Maryland Million Classic.
I think that's what it was. Yeah. But no, it's interesting. That's also not easy to do, to keep a horse going at that level for 4 years.
Yeah. Again, that's why I attribute it to Arnie, because he never pushed me. When I said, Arnie, this guy just needs a little bit of a break. We know what we want to do with them. These are the races that are coming up for us next year. If we're going to make those, we need to give him some time off now. And Arnie was always like, you're the boss. Do whatever you think you need to. Yeah. So it made it easy for me.
Arnie Heft had, part of the Bullets at one point, right?
He did.
He was
and
an
Capitals.
NBA ref and
the Washington Capitals.
And the Caps? I didn't know that part.
That's how Catcher got his name, Eighttofasttocatch, named after Ovechkin.
Yeah. Which also tells you how long Ovechkin's been doing it, because wow.
Yeah.
Talking with trainer Tim Keefe here. He's got Code of Silence in the private terms on Saturday at Laurel Park. You're listening to Maryland Racing Today, powered by the Racing Biz. And Tim, you've been doing this a long time. I think your first winner was in like 92 or 94. What keeps you going?
Well, I love doing this. Something I've always done. I grew up around horses. When I was younger, we lived in an area that had horses. I'd ride my bike up every day after school to work on a farm. I'd come in on weekends to walk hots at the racetrack. I grew up with show horses, pony club, fox hunting. It's how I met my wife when we were in pony club when we were younger. Did steeplechasing, and I've always loved doing it, so it's never really felt like a job. So meet some fascinating people. I've had over the 30, I hesitate to even say that because I realize how old I am. Yeah, I sat on my first horse in 92 via Hawaii for a professor of mine at the University of Maryland, Malcolm Comer. And I had some horses for him, and that's when I started back in 92. So, I enjoy it. I grew up with working for Jack and Gretchen Moberly on the racetrack, Jimmy Murphy and Ronnie Cartwright. Those were the three big trainers that I worked for back then. I learned a lot from all of them. And, from Jack always, I don't know if you remember Jack Moberly or not, but he was always very involved in things in the MTHA back in the time was the HVPA, I guess it was back then. Maybe it was the MTHA still. But, he always impressed upon me how important it is to give back. If you want to help improve your industry and help improve things, it's important to volunteer and give back your time. So I've always tried to do that.
Ron Cartwright was, I started I was a handicapper, but we started owning horses and started getting more seriously involved like early 2000s. And I think Ron Cartwright was one of the first trainers I met, and I used to see him a lot. Like after he retired, he was still showing up at the track all the time. He just loved being around it. It seemed like
he just loved being around it. I know one of the big reasons he got out was just, it's difficult with help and finding all the owners. And of course he had great owners. He had Oliver Goldsmith. He had Bill and Phyllis Dixon's Mia Culpa stable, who I'm thoroughly grateful for because they gave me some of their cast offs when I was starting off. But no, Ronnie was great, but I know it was tough for him, as it was for a lot of people, just trying to find good, reliable, consistent help that would be able to be in the barn and meet his quality of standards. He had a very high quality of standards, and he wouldn't just hire anybody. It had to be somebody that was good and reliable, dependable. And I think that's finally was the final straw for him as why he probably retired. He loved coming out. He loved, I talked to him all the time. In fact, if I had a question about a horse or a problem that I might have, I'd always give him a call and he'd try to help me if he could. He was a great, super guy, and I loved seeing him out there at the races. He'd always come out and he always dressed dapper. I'm sure you remember. He always had his coat and tie on. Didn't matter if he was just there on a Thursday afternoon to bet the third race. He always had a coat and tie on.
We don't have too many of those left, do we?
No,
King passing and Ronnie and whatever. You mentioned being involved in stuff, the MTHA, the TMJC board and whatnot. If I had told you 10 years ago, 5 years ago, the 2025 Preakness is going to take place at Pimlico, which is basically falling down around us. The 2026 Preakness is going to take place at Laurel Park with 4,800 people. And the 2027 Preakness is going to take place at Pimlico, but there won't be a grandstand. Would you have tried to have me committed?
Yeah, I probably would have. For sure. Yeah, no doubt. But that's the reality, though, right? That's what's gonna, at least right now, that's what's gonna happen. Who knows the way things change? But yeah, no, I mean, nobody likes change. Everybody likes to stay the same. I mean, change is always difficult for everybody, but you have to, to adapt to our ever-changing environment here in the nation and in North America racing. It's changing, it's contracting, it's where the foal population's down and all the other external things that drive what we have to do now in our business. We've got HISA that's overlooking everybody, and you can argue, and I won't go into all that because I know I stand on a different fence sometimes than others and their feelings on HISA, but I mean, it's definitely going to be different here in Maryland. It's changed, and it's going to definitely be different. I think the plan now that they have with keeping Laurel is a better option for most of the horsemen. I think it does give us a little bit more stability than the unknown of turning Shamrock Farm into a training center and what that was going to look like potentially. I know it's a different outlook now of a ship in meet only at Pimlico. But the reality, even if we had Shamrock, the reality is there were only going to be at most 350 or 400 stalls at Pimlico. So the vast majority of people were going to have to ship in anyway. It's going to be different for sure.
Mm-hmm.
My hope is that, you know, and keeping Laurel and as the training center, and at least that gives us an option, if there is an option down the road, to have some live racing back at Laurel instead of 100% at Pimlico. I'm not saying that'll happen right now. Everybody says it's not going to happen, but at least the option's there in case something happens at Pimlico, or in case the turf needs a break. You know, we're going to try to utilize Fair Hill, which we're going to do this spring with 2 days, a steeplechase day and a flat day. We did a little bit of that last fall, if you remember. Most of that that meet was a completely flat meet. It was run by the NSA, National Steeplechase Association, but there weren't plenty of horsemen from Maryland. I ran one up there, but again, for Caroline Stoutberg. But there will be a day of flat racing up there in the spring. So hopefully Fair Hill will be part of the whole equation in Maryland racing as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that as I understand it, that the racing at Fair Hill they're looking at like Memorial Day, right?
Yes, that's correct.
That weekend. It seems to me, I think you and I have even talked about it. I mean, I think most horsemen would agree with what you said, that Laurel has always been the logical spot. There were a lot of issues, a lot of reasons, but it's always been sort of the logical spot. But it also seems to me that if you're gonna have Laurel, you need to race there a little. I mean, it doesn't have to be. I understand Pimlico is the thing, but you gotta do some kind of like turf festival or something, because the location is good, the turf course is good, and Pimlico's turf course isn't big enough to run the 6 a day that the MJCs run on the turf in recent years.
No, you're exactly right, and I think as time goes on and the powers that be realize this, will come to that very conclusion. It's hard for anybody to come to the conclusion right now when you're doing everything we're doing. So you shouldn't. I don't expect anybody to say, yeah, okay, we're going to have some live racing. Or nobody's going to say that. But you're right. I think what you're saying, I think, is exactly right.
Yeah. I will let you go shortly. But one of the things I've been talking to some breeders recently. We talked with you, in fact, a couple of weeks ago about this. But I mean, one of the issues that has come up quite a bit is that the kind of flux that the industry's been in Maryland, the uncertainty that people have been around, is affecting people in a lot of different ways. You know, whether it's a decision to breed horses, a decision to own horses, how trainers are feeling. It's a stressor on everyone in the industry and on the industry itself. Do you feel confident that, you know, or let me take you one step back, and then you had the whole thing with Shamrock. Shamrock's going to be the training center. Well, no, it's not. Now we're negotiating to make Laurel the training center. Do you feel like now are the pieces starting to fit together? Can people start to maybe feel a little more confident that the future's going to be okay?
Yes, I do firmly believe that. Yes, I think we've been at this for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. I don't know how long it's been. I remember sitting in Anthony Manganero's offices up in Columbia, going through this with Tim Ritvo and Alan Foreman's been at, and Alan's been at from the very beginning. So thankfully we've had somebody like Alan to help try to navigate this whole process. But I do. And, you know, we were, you know, quite frankly, we were years ago. Why are we buying another farm? Why don't we just focus on trying to buy Laurel? And we were told absolutely not going to happen. Just politically, it's not going to happen. So a lot of these decisions, you just have to either wait until they can think. You have to wait until the powers that be can rationally think about things, and then maybe come to the conclusion that some others who've been in it a long time and maybe realize it and have more of a foresight. But I'm kind of getting jumbled up here a little bit, but I do think it's much. I feel a whole lot more comfortable about where we are than I was 6 months ago, or even a year ago. So, yeah, and hopefully that leads to more trainers wanting to stay in, because that's a lot of what I heard as well. When Shamrock opens and Laurel closes, we're done. We're retiring. We're moving out of here. We're doing this. We're doing that. So hopefully this curtails some of that, and hopefully people are still willing to. Certainly with a new facility at Pimlico and a rebuilt Laurel training facility, we certainly hope to attract different outside outfits. I think we will, and at least that's the hope. And hopefully we can get more people interested in breeding again, and because that's obviously been on the decline too, not just in Maryland but all around the country. So,
yeah. Do you have any sense of if Maryland's going to succeed, it kind of has to buck all the trends, which
we have so far over all the years we have. But no, you're exactly right. I know that, how do you get more people stimulated, or how do you get the breeding industry stimulated? And that's a question that a lot of people are asking right now and trying to figure it out. Is it trying to put more money into it? Is it trying different incentives, different types of races, whether Maryland restricted, Maryland Million, that sort of thing? How do you get stallion owners to bring the stallions into the state and stand them? So it's a tricky, complicated question. You look at a type of Maryland residency program like Virginia has, and Delaware has, and maybe that'll be a part of it. But certainly people are looking at it right now and trying to figure it out.
And how do you get more people to bet on and pay attention to the racing product?
Right. You have to have a good racing product. You have to have bigger fields, full fields, and you have to have better product. We have a good product here in Maryland. We have a very good product. Good trainers, good horsemen and women, good jocks, good jockeys. It's just and with the addition of Bill Knopf and his team that have done a lot of marketing, which has been sorely lacking in the state for many, many years. You can see some of those numbers are up really on the improve. You can see on the big days that Bill and his team have, the Oyster Fest, that was a huge success. This bourbon and cigars, a huge success. Just trying a lot of different things to get people to fill the seats and come back to the races. That aspect is starting to work. So having him as part of the team, Bill Knopf, has been great. It's been wonderful.
Well, that's certainly good news, and hopefully we'll be seeing more and more progress down the road a piece, and hopefully we'll get a new Pimlico and Laurel, and everybody will be happy.
We will.
So it'll be interesting to see. These are interesting times, right?
They certainly are. Yep.
All right, Tim Keefe, I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much for spending the time with us here on Maryland Racing Today, powered by the Racing Biz, presented by the Maryland Jockey Club. Please, folks, like and subscribe at all the places: Amazon, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, et cetera. And Tim, good luck with Code of Silence on Saturday. We'll look forward to seeing him try two turns for the very first time.
I appreciate it, Frank, and thanks for everything you do here for Maryland Racing as well, Frank.